Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Vanessa and you are watching this because you are meant for greatness. Good morning everyone. Today we have a guest with me, that's Guillaume Danis. He's a good friend of mine. We've been knowing each other for a couple of years now and he's been inspiring me through entrepreneurship for as long as we've known each other, so I'm gonna invite him to introduce himself.
Alright, well, good morning guys. If you're coming onto this from my channel, then you already know a little bit about me. Otherwise, just a quick summary of who I am. My name is Guillaume, I'm 24 years old. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business since I was 18, essentially. We're in Ottawa right now. I didn't grow up in this area though. I grew up in a very small town, grew up on a small farm. And I moved here to come study, and then one thing led to another and ended up becoming an entrepreneur. So I enjoy reading, I enjoy playing video games, I enjoy working out, and I enjoy working on my different projects, my different businesses, and I make vlogs.
And you'll find out about that soon. Great, thank you very much for being here today. I'm really glad to have you with me. We've been talking about making a video together for such a long time, so it's nice that it's finally today's the day.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I want to start by asking you to tell us a fun fact about yourself.
A fun fact about me. Okay, so I just mentioned that I like playing video games, right? And most people wouldn't expect that from me when they meet me, because you know I'm like. My profile, like what I do, and like everything that I do, everything that I am, most people wouldn't necessarily associate that with a gamer, but it's actually something that I really enjoy doing. And it's not something that I share all the time, but it is something that I enjoy doing. But the funny part about this is that, so the funny thing about this is that where I grew up, I actually grew up without electricity. So video games was not a thing that was a part of my childhood. Not at all. It's really just when I was like 19, 20 that I started discovering that a little bit more, and so that's why that's actually a funny thing about
me. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to start with first asking you, what's your definition of entrepreneurship?
So entrepreneurship comes from the French word entreprendre, which basically means to start something, to create an endeavor, to go after something. Now in 2018, there's just a lot of hype around the word entrepreneurship itself, and there's just a lot of hype around entrepreneurs. But the reality is that to me, entrepreneurship is anyone who really has an idea, has a project in mind, and that goes after it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a business. An entrepreneur is the mindset that you accomplish what you set your mind to, and to me that's what the definition of entrepreneurship is. Is to take on stuff and you get it done. It's you have an idea, you go after it, and you don't let anything stop you, and you get it done.
Love it, definitely. Yeah. Love it. All right, so start by telling us when did everything start for you? When did you start being a businessman, or when did entrepreneurship starts to grow in you?
This is the tough answer here. It's a tough question. It's a bit of a complicated answer, because if you asked me this a year ago, I would have said when I was 18 and when I got started in business. That would have been my answer. But because I've now grown into this new perspective of what entrepreneurship is, I realized that I actually started being an entrepreneur. So I started at a very young age, just going after things that I wanted to accomplish. So when did it start? Growing up, I grew up, we were 3 boys, and I was the youngest one. So you always want to do what your brothers are doing, right? So you always do stuff with them.
Yeah.
But the one memory that I have that's a very clear and vivid memory for me of the first time that I really did something on my own, and that was kind of a big project that I had, was the first time that I went winter camping. So that happened when I was either 11 or 12 years old. So middle of winter, it was probably like in January or something like that. And you know, I told you guys I grew up on a small farm. My dad had a business when he was much younger. Before I was born, he was a business that was wilderness survival, so we teach people about wilderness survival. So growing up, he taught us a lot of those skills, and that's why we grew up doing a lot of camping. So I remember vividly when I was either 11 or 12, I had already had a little bit of experience doing that with my brothers and my dad, and I thought, you know what, for the first time I'm going to go and I'm going to do it alone. So I packed my bags, and I didn't want to go too far, because if you have an issue winter camping, you want to be able to get back home fairly quickly, right? So I walked for maybe 3 hours, 3.5 hours. The concept that I abide by when I go winter camping is that you're not winter camping with a tent. You build your own shelter. And so I found where I sort of had an idea where I wanted to go, and I packed my bags and I went there. And, you know, with my big snowshoes on and whatnot, and my axe and my little saw and my plastic tarps and my rope and whatnot. And so I did it. I built the shelter, and I decided to sleep there for the night. But in my design of building the shelter, the design was a little bit flawed. And one of the ways that you stay warm in the winter, in a winter shelter, is by having a lot of snow on top of it, because snow actually insulates it. And because of my design and the flaw, all the snow slid off of it during the night. And so it got really, really cold. And obviously I woke up in the middle of the night, freezing. And, you know, it's like 2 a.m. at that point, maybe close to 3 a.m. And I'm thinking like, okay, well, either I just kind of try to tough it out and go back to sleep, or I get up in the middle of the night and I walk home, right? And so you kind of have all these different thoughts going through your mind, that it's like there's a lot of pride involved,
Yeah.
Because it's like you don't want to give up. But then there's also a certain level of risk,
Yeah.
right? That you can't be like, you can't take stupid decisions either. It's a tough decision, because there's also risk with walking home in the middle of the night in the bush, right?
Yeah.
But I decided to walk home. But here's the funny part. Walking there in my winter boots all day and working to build a shelter, there was a lot of humidity that had accumulated in my winter boots. And while I was sleeping, they had toppled over. And that humidity froze them, toppled over. So I wasn't able to actually put my boots on to go home. So luckily for me, I had plastic bags. So I literally just put plastic bags over my feet.
Oh my god.
and I walked home from there. So I remember like walking in like 5 a.m., whatever, like I got home straight to bed and slept until like noon. And then after that I went back and I got all my gear.
Amazing.
And whatnot. So when did entrepreneurship starts for me? It's probably with stuff like that.
Yeah, because most of the time you do some entrepreneur stuff and you don't really realize it, especially when you're young. Like you don't
Exactly.
even know what entrepreneurship is. And,
Yeah, exactly.
And turns out, you know, there are many stories of like people that are selling candies at school and they're making money out of it, and then you realize that that's entrepreneurship. So that's super interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I believe that everyone has entrepreneurship somewhere inside of them, because I think at some point in their life we've all done something that we wanted to see happen, and it was not happening,
Yeah.
so we decided to make it happen by ourselves. Like I remember when I was gonna go to school outside of my parents' town, I did not have much money to go to school, and my parents couldn't really help me out, so I decided that I was gonna have a garage sale, and I raised like I think $200 back then. So
There you go.
yeah, so I didn't
That's
realize
it.
it at the time. I was just like, I need money to go study, so I'm just gonna, you know, sell some stuff.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Considering where you are today, what do you think have been the turning point in your life?
Biggest turning point out of all of them is when I came here to study at first. Like I did not think I was going to become an entrepreneur. Like I did not have that in mind at all. That was not something that I had even thought of at that point. And when I came here to study, I started by, I wanted to become an engineer first, so I started going down that path. And about midway through my first semester in college, my brother Simon came back from Quebec City, and he introduced me to the student painting franchise and that industry. And that is where things really took the biggest turn for me. From like, I'm going to become an engineer or an architect, that's what I had in mind, to I'm going to become an entrepreneur. And that was like the biggest change of direction. There might have been other things, like if that wouldn't have happened, I already had the attitude and the mindset to succeed and to thrive as an entrepreneur. So there might have been other things that would have pushed me in that direction if that hadn't happened. But that's the one thing that happened that did push me in this direction. So I'm very, very grateful every day for that. And for my brother who believed in me, and a lot of other people along the way as well.
What made you take the jump?
That's a good question.
Because you literally, like, from one day to another you decided to drop school and then
Yeah.
build your own business.
You know what it is?
That's a big decision to take.
It's a big decision to take, but I was a bigger person than that decision.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is the decision, like in terms of like how much, like how serious you need to be about something, how much you need to believe in yourself, and how much you need to believe in your aptitude to succeed. That decision was maybe, you know, if like going to do the groceries is a 1, that decision might have been like a 9.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like it's very, there's not a lot of safety associated to it, anything
Yeah.
like that. But just because of all the other experiences that I've had before that in my life, like I was already above that level required to be able to take that decision easily, right? So it's like I was already the person that was able to take advantage of that opportunity. And that relates a lot to the concept that, you know, that there's opportunities around us every single day, but
Yeah.
whether or not you can see them and take advantage depends on who you are, right?
Yeah. You know, you've been telling us about how you had to be that person to be able to take that decision, which is like seriously something that's really hard to do, and it's really good for you that you were able to take that step. But for people that might be like a bit scared about that would not really have the guts or wouldn't really see that opportunity coming, how can those people become those kind of person?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the importance of that question.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so if you want to be able to take advantage of that opportunity, it's like knowing that you're in a dream. That's kind of the mind-boggling thing that we're going into right now is you know that you're in a dream in the sense that you see that opportunity and you want to be able to take advantage of it, but you know that you're not yet the person who can take advantage of it, but
Yeah.
somehow you were still able to see that opportunity, right?
Because it's super easy to be like, oh, there's an amazing opportunity out there, but it's not, like, I'm not really good at that, or it's not really my skills, or it's not really my path to go, so you're not, like, you're gonna make excuses not to go that way. So,
Yeah.
but the truth is, you can do anything you want. So if you believe that this is a good opportunity, you can make it happen if you want it to happen. So
Exactly.
how can we make that happen?
So we can make that happen by becoming someone who's ready to take on that opportunity. Okay, and there's a couple of different things to keep in mind here. And the number one thing, especially for our generation, that I want to start with is be patient. Okay, and a lot of us don't know what that means.
True.
We live in a society that's instant gratification. There's a certain level where if you jump into an opportunity and you're not ready, you're sabotaging yourself in the sense that you're going to be so careful of everything that you do that it's actually going to hurt you and not help you. You have to understand that there's a certain level of fear that's going to be part of absolutely everything you do all the time. That's just your subconscious mind trying to protect you. Okay, so even myself, even though I feel very confident in my ability to accomplish stuff, I still have doubts that come up, and that's normal because that's my subconscious just trying to protect me. What if this or what if that, right? But I can recognize that my skill level and my attitude is still at a high enough point where I can confidently jump into something and get it done. And then there's other times where there's stuff that's just really out of your league. And it's important to be able to recognize that, because once you recognize that stuff is out of your league, then you can recognize where you really are, and from there what you need to work on to then jump into that league. There's a certain element of time that you need to respect. Change takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. If you recognize that stuff might be out of your league, then start doing stuff that's going to push you in that league. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, what kind of skill, what kind of habits does someone need to have? What kind of character, what kind of attitude does someone need to have to be in that league, to be able to take advantage of that opportunity? And then start doing stuff that's going to develop that part of your character. Okay, and this is the most important part that I think we got to talk about is action.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because there's a huge misconception right now that you become what you hear, and you become what you read, and you become what you listen to. And that's just, to me, that's just a big load of bullshit, because at the end of the day, you internalize what you actually do, not what you hear about.
Yeah.
Okay, what you hear about is great, it's a new perspective, it can open up new possibilities and ideas, but until you put that into action, you don't internalize any of it. Okay? What you do is what builds your character, not what you think.
Yeah.
What you think affects what you do if you decide to act on it. But what you do is what builds your character, and your character is what builds your attitude. There is such a plague right now of like, you know, you go on Instagram, there's just all these motivational quotes everywhere. And it's just, everyone is just talking a big game, but so few people are actually taking action. So if you want to get into that league, start doing those things that are a little bit more difficult. Start going out of your comfort zone. And what you'll notice is that as you do it, and as you make it a focus to do that, things get easier and easier, and you can actually acquire momentum faster and faster.
What I love about what you said is it's super easy to read lots of books and watch movies and watch motivational videos and everything, and then you become the expert of I'm an entrepreneur because I read lots of books about entrepreneurship. The truth is, they say that, you know, yes, they say that knowledge is power, but if you're not putting it into action, then it's not worth anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've been saying, like, you might know, like, everything that you need to know in the world, but if you're not doing anything about it, then it's not going to go anywhere, because everyone knows how to be super healthy and how to lose weight, and everyone knows that. But yet, we still have some people that are not fit, and then if everyone was actually putting it into action, then everyone would be super fit.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's all about making the actions that makes a difference.
It's funny that you bring that up about knowledge is power, because a couple of years ago that was like my go-to quote all the time, but I would always say it the same way. I would tell people, knowledge is not power, applied knowledge is power.
Oh,
right?
That's amazing. I like that.
And I would always go to that. My number one quote was, applied knowledge is power.
And you know, the more and more we read books, like, there's more and more some parts where they say, okay, I want you to put down that book, now go make a plan for everything that I've just said, go take notes, go apply it, and then continue reading the book. But don't continue until you've done it, because if not, that's not going to make a difference. And, you know, the greatest leaders are the ones that are going to make you take an action, not the ones that are going to inspire you.
I agree, and it's funny that you'd bring that up, because it's a bit of a frustration of mine, just because I don't read that much anymore. When I get my knowledge, it's more through audiobooks. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'm driving in the car and I've got Tony Robbins that's talking to me, right, through the speakers, and he's just like, all right, now I want you to put down this book. And I'm just like, no, I can't.
I totally feel that.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for watching this video. That was my friend Guillaume. We've had an amazing interview, and there was too many content that we couldn't do only one video, so there's going to be actually 3 videos like this. So that's going to be amazing. To watch the next part, it's going to come up next week. Follow and subscribe to the channel so you can get updates and see the next videos coming up. In the meantime, go out there and take an action. Life is so short. There is no time to waste on realizing your dreams. So we'll see you next week.